Hack the world!
So welcome to the Hack the Planet, a new podcast that is it's a rewatch of, well, that's maturity. That's now, wait, Matt, were you trying to say like that's real mature?
Real mature.
Okay, that's real mature.
As I said, I refuse to have anything to do with anything that's measured in maturity.
Now, are we talking about like in your entire life? Just in technology?
Peter Pan for life, baby.
There's another t-shirt for you. PPFL. Peter Pan for life.
By the way, I have approval for the LLM t-shirt. So
okay. Wait, who do you need approval from?
Well, you know, when you say I identify as, you better ask people around.
Okay, I see.
Who owns LLM as a copyright?
Me.
Nah, not me.
Well, you ask somebody.
Oh no, somebody who understands, like somebody who is more aware of these things than I am. Which could be said anybody, but no, I went to
You're quite aware of. You seem to be vaguely aware of your surroundings. I've noticed that about you.
I'm surrounded.
You're surrounded. The fish behind you is listening.
So maybe we should we talk about something here, maybe, or is this just the random show version of the security table?
No, wait. Today is celebration day.
It is. We need a celebration, so we have Izar celebrating with fireworks for those on the audio.
Now that I learned this thing, that's done.
Yeah, it's like giving a small child a new toy that makes noise. Is effectively Izar and reactions, a new feature that is the camera and Mac OS do for you. But yeah, we are here on the security table to celebrate what I'll define as a momentous occasion. So the three of us with another 12 people, I had to go count in the document itself to make sure I didn't miss anybody. But three of us plus 12 other people. Most of the folks were from the original Threat Modeling Manifesto team. We are proud and happy to announce that we have released another document. And this time we have released something called Threat Modeling Capabilities. And so we want to use our time in the show today to introduce you to this new project that we've just released 2 days ago from the time we're recording this, to fill you in on what it is, but then also let you get a little taste of how it was put together by way of perhaps a little bit of discussion and debate about the merits of maturity over capability. But I'm getting there too soon. So Matt, set it up for us as far as like, what's a capability? Like, what are we even talking about when we say threat modeling capabilities?
So, in a nutshell, a capability is something that you do or have in this case, in your program, your threat modeling program. So it's something that you do or do not do, as Jonathan would like to say. And so a capability is, and in this case, we're talking about capabilities, things that help to improve or make most efficient your threat modeling process. And separately, of course, we could talk about maturity, but that's obviously a separate conversation around how well or how frequent or how consistently you do that thing. So a capability really is something that you achieve, an objective, a goal, something that you can measure and say you do or do not have or do not do or do not do. And that's in a nutshell where we're at from this document.
Izar, why don't you set up for those listening how this document came together? Talk about the team and the process and how we work together to create this thing.
So we tried to emulate what we did with the manifesto, right? So the team already knows that not only we work well together, but we enjoy working together. I think that both things are actually connected. Something to look at. But so we got together the same way, once a week, an hour, and a lot of offline work over Google Docs. And we managed to, I think that's the first big discussion that we had was the capability/maturity. What are we setting up to do? And I think that we came to the conclusion that if I remember correctly, and if not, hear it soon in an AppSec podcast of your choice. But I think that we got to sort of the idea that the capability was more of a 0 or a 1. You either have it or you don't have it. And a maturity was a continuum. That thing that you have or don't have, the maturity would reflect how far along you are in that journey. So we decided that it made more sense to actually define what the capabilities are. And only at a later date, go the maturity way. And we got to divide all the capabilities into 7 process areas, which are strategy, education, creating threat models, acting on threat models, communications, measurement, and program management. And from here, you can already see that what we tried to put together was not only the capabilities that you may need to do a proper threat model, but we also looked at the program side of things. Many times people know how to do individual threat models, and that's great and that's awesome. But how do you translate that to a whole organization? How do you build a whole program around it, right? What does the organization has to have in place? And it's hard to talk about those things without, again, using the word maturity. But how far along the journey does the security, the organization has to be in order to be able to both create, maintain, and extract value from threat models? And I think that's the most important thing here, is that we went exactly that way. How do you use these capabilities? How having or not having these capabilities influences you being able to extract value and to nurture and to grow your threat modeling program.
Yeah. So I wanna challenge you both here to, and I'm going to go first, so you'll have time to think about this. I'm not just going to throw this question at you just randomly, but I want each of you to share. What was one of the big, like the things that you took away? What's a story that you can share about this journey that began in May and ended yesterday with the release of the capabilities document? It could be something along the journey, like something that happened or whatever. I know there was a lot of cool things that happened. I'll share one first to give you guys time to noodle on it here. I would say that the part of this process that just really stuck with me, that one of the things I thought was so fun, we did a workshop where we had all 15 of us in a shared Miro board. And we were brainstorming kind of like the positive and negative sides, like what are things that could go wrong in a threat modeling program? And then what are the things that would be things that could go right? And so we were looking at it from 2 different perspectives. But Fraser Scott led us through that exercise. And we literally had like, Fraser would make an announcement and then there'd be like a 5 minutes of work and you'd watch all these cursors flying all over this little shared Miro screen, dropping boxes in. And it was just a really fun way to brainstorm at such a high rate of speed. And like in 90 minutes or something, we ended up with the guts of what became the capabilities that we released yesterday. Now they changed, they modified. Yes, there was a lot of tweaking and whatnot that happened to them, but still the core of those things came out of that brainstorming exercise. And I'm looking forward to trying to use that style of a workshop again in the future, because it was just such a powerful thing to get so many smart people putting together their best ideas down at a high rate of speed. So that was the one for me. I gave you guys plenty of time to think up like your key moment of the experience. So Matt, I'm going to you next.
Go with Izar. He looks like he has something on.
No. You first.
No. That's okay. You can go first.
Well, listen, if you use it, he can't tell it. So whoever goes next is locking in another thing out of the story.
So to me, I'm going to be very selfish here and point at something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that I think that I pushed very hard to get into the document. It's the fact that each capability is either measurable or provable. You're not able to self-attest and everything's fine because I said so. You actually have to put some stuff on the table to show that, yes, you have or don't have that capability and where it goes. And I think that the fact that we managed to do it so concise, I mean, each capability is tops a paragraph. Some of them are just one sentence. I think that's so cool that we're not like writing Bibles over here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one key, I guess, standout thing that happened from my perspective is actually something that happened regularly throughout the conversations, was the process of understanding that we went through, right? So starting with the concepts, what do we need in a threat modeling program in order to be successful and efficient and effective? And taking that, approaching it, breaking it down into, okay, what is it? What do those represent parts? And then having the conversation across all the members who are present on those various sessions to think about. We obviously had folks who were on the consulting or academic side, or practitioners of threat modelers, or developers of tools, as well as folks who were consuming it and working with business and engineering teams. And so those different perspectives being brought together to really understand the problem, to really understand, even if we had a capability that could be measured, A, was it valuable to have? And B, was it going to actually be done? Right? There's a notion that some things are probably worth doing and some things are maybe not so worth doing. And so therefore, things get tabled or held back or just not put forward as of it may be of value, but not in context. And so having those different opinions come together. And then once we started looking at those and refining them, doing things like, right, that's maturity. So making sure that we were not baking in maturity into the capability, so that we had a set of things that can be done and can be measured without worrying about the how or the to what level. And so that was just amazing that we were able to hold it through the entire deliberations and maintain that with all the different opinions that were involved, and the fact that we could come together as a group and come to a conclusion that we could release was simply amazing.
And that speaks to, I guess, I'll bookend this portion of the podcast. I shared the first one. I'll share the last one. It just speaks to the quality of the people, these 15 people that we brought together here. Matt, you already touched on the fact that all of us are coming from different perspectives, different jobs, different threat modeling experiences over our careers. Some are authors, such as yourselves. Others are trainers. Others are consultants in running programs inside of companies. But there was never a moment in the deliberations around the capabilities where anybody raised their voice or yelled at anybody else. Like it was just a peaceful group of very smart people. And that's one of the things that I just love about working with this team is we can respectfully disagree with each other. And we did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in the midst of this. There were many things that we did not agree on, but everybody very respectfully lays out their case, and then other people will start to add additional data to it. And then as a group, we kind of come to a decision, and then we move forward and we say, okay, here's what we're going to do with it, because we feel like, and there was a few times where I called for a vote because I'm like, I just don't know which way this is going. Like we need democratic process to determine what the outcome of this particular issue is, because a lot of times it was like somebody would make a case, somebody might make a counterpoint, people started to kind of fall into one, and it became very clear, like, okay, this is where the group is leaning. A few times we had to go to the democratic process, but never did anybody yell, scream, carry on, grandstand, filibuster, all the words we can use that are negative. It just didn't happen. And that's the magical thing about working with this group, and what makes me look forward to what we're going to do next.
Now, having said that, I do want to call out for listeners/viewers. We did have, it was a well-moderated conversation.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so thank you, Chris, for providing that moderation and those sanity checks in many cases, providing a sanity case, or, okay, we're at, A versus B. Can we come to a conclusion? Keeping us on track. Even though it didn't come to a vote in most cases, the fact that we had control over the process, that there was control in the process, so that so that, there were valves to release the pressure in the conversation. Not that nobody blew up or anything like that, but it wasn't a free for all, and we're all professionals doing our professional job. Things that we do that we'd like to do. Working with threat modeling and doing that. So.
And in that same note, I want to call out our friend Jonathan Marceau, who did an amazing job, not only on the site, on the presentation, but behind the scenes on pushing things around and getting people to come down to a decision on wording and stuff like that. And more than anything, being the maturity policy police.
Yeah.
Many, many times in these discussions, we'll be talking about something, and all of a sudden we'll figure out that almost by default, we fall into a discussion of the maturity of the thing. And he would put it back to, no, wait. You're talking maturity. What's the capability behind this?
The funny thing about that, though, is he only represented the maturity police for about 2 meetings. But then he built the maturity police, the virtual maturity police force, where we all started going back to it automatically. Yeah. And it wasn't even like he had to raise his hand to kind of get our attention, go, oh, no, maturity. We would all be like, oh, wait, that's maturity. So kudos to him for implanting this capability. You like that? Implanting a capability amongst the team where we would self-correct when we started to go down the maturity approach.
So notice he turned on the capability, but over the calls, we improved on the maturity of it by getting better as a team on doing it.
So we're level 4 now when it comes to that.
We're level 4.
Let's bring this document up. I mean, we have the power of the internet, I guess, and we can just take a quick peek at it. So those that are watching this on YouTube can see. Matt
is going to read it, to read the screen for those who are listening in the car.
Yeah, I'm not reading the screen. They have screen readers for that.
Exactly.
How does the screen reader go? Browser, threat modeling capabilities, URL.
It's definitely your voice that people are listening to as well. So just to highlight, I'll highlight some things here, and you guys can feel free to comment on them as you think. Or as you feel led. But for those that are listening from an audio perspective, when you get back to a safe place, please don't try to view the capabilities in your car while driving. But the document is at threatmodelingmanifesto.org/capabilities. And you will find that link in the show notes as well. So, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. Once again, don't look at it if you're flying a plane, helicopter, or driving a car or a boat at this particular time.
Submarines are fine.
Submarines are fine because you can just put it on autopilot. And
you don't see where you're going anyway. So
that's true. So pointing out the document. So the first section, we have a little bit of introduction, and then we're defining what's a threat modeling capability. So Matt did a great job of summarizing what exists in this section already early when we first started talking about capabilities. There's a little more context there that you can get into. And then Izar referenced the 7 different categories or the groupings of these process areas of capabilities that are strategy, education, creating threat models, acting on threat models, communications, measurement, and program management. And then for each of these individual capabilities, there is a name. There's a little bit of introductory text that we like to refer to as the North Star. Was what we were guiding towards. What did we want this particular process area to help us get to? And then with each of these capabilities, it's really just a 2 or 3 word descriptive title of what the capability is, and then 1 to 2 to maybe maximum 3 sentences that help to describe what it is. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to pick one just at random that we can just have a little chat about here.
Let's get one of the ones that we spent a lot of time on.
Okay, well, give me a hint as far as which
one. What was that last one? Go down a bit. No, it was on communications, I think.
Well, so one thing to highlight is a lot of the time when we were building these capabilities, they move. So the process areas didn't originally start this way, and capabilities moved around and got merged and got split and got remerged. So, if there's one in particular, it's hard to call out one in particular that had a lot of conversation, because that may have been a conversation around a capability that existed before a split or a merge.
No, wait, we had the one that we went on how the program feeds on itself, or Remember that one?
Yeah,
We
yeah. Wow. You know what? This is it should be fresh in our mind. So
PTSD. We are just pushing the thing down because we don't want to remember the discussion. What was it? Not continuous changes.
Well, so while Izar is figuring that out, actually, Chris, why don't we go back to the top? Let's talk through each of the process areas. We can, if there's nothing to talk about specifically, we can skip it.
Yeah.
Strategy first is really about overall, what would you want to look for? How would you approach if you don't have a threat modeling practice already in your organization? But also, if you have one, how would you potentially look to improve it, make it more effective, right? So we're talking about things like making sure that you have management buy-in and that execution at an organizational level can occur, right? When we look at then from that feeds a lot of these other process areas, right? So education, which is the next one in our process area list, is all about ensuring that people have the right resources, knowledge, and other resources so that they are able to be effective in the role and that the program can be successful.
Let's stop here for a second. Let's unpack a few of these because I think this is just a one there's a 6-pack of capabilities here. But you've got training assignments. So threat modeling training is part of the organization's curriculum. Stakeholders assign resources that everyone in the organization can learn. That is a capability because we want people to learn more about threat modeling so they can get better at threat modeling. And that goes right along with active practice, where practitioners use experiential learning to develop threat modeling skills by performing hands-on threat modeling, right?
Yeah,
it's
not
exponential. Experiential. I said it. I had to correct myself there.
Stay away of my logarithms.
Yeah, that's right. I don't even know what a logarithm is. So, but then all the way down to continuing education, a capability that describes how people need to continuously be learning more about threat modeling and security and privacy. And so that's a package of a process area with education describing, these best practices. And like Izar and Matt have already described, like this is a 0 or 1. And Izar was the one who helped drive us to these have to be provable. It can't just be like we feel like we're doing it. Each of these has something, a deliverable that you'd be able to look at and determine whether, in fact, your company was completing these various capabilities.
And it's important to call out that that training or education process area has a root in the manifesto.
Yes.
Right. So journey of understanding over security and privacy snapshot. And how do you make that successful? Right. So we want to ensure, or we hope, that organizations build out a program that is consistent in its values and principles, and that education is a key part to that. And so you'll see that as a theme throughout, that a lot of the process areas and the capabilities themselves tie back to one of the concepts in the manifesto.
Yep.
Okay. How about creating?
Wait. Go back up. I remember now. The one that we spent the most time on ended up being called conventional alignment.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
My goodness. We spent so much time on this one.
Well, okay, so let's tell the full story here. Part of the reason why there was contention on the convention is that
contention on the convention of the
not
inflection.
When I'm drinking.
Can you please work another chung type of word into it? The inflection of the convection of the convention was more about the
deflection.
was more about getting a good 2-word adjective noun or adverb action than anything else.
Yep.
So each of the capabilities you'll notice have a format of a word and a word. There's actually a hyphenated word in here somewhere, so it's 3. But it's
we cheated.
It's a descriptive action, right? So in this case, it's alignment of conventions, and that training is informed by and reinforces the organizational norms, so that you get consistency where you want it, and that consistency improves the capability of the threat modeling program.
I'm sorry, but when we managed to put the sentence "infuse locality of organizational culture into threat modeling," that's when I felt that we got there. That's when I felt that we achieved maximum Dilbertness.
And if it requires an LLM to interpret it and understand it correctly,
that's because we used one to write it.
We did not. We used a bunch of brains, human brains. All right, so then we got creating threat models is the next section where there's 12 capabilities that are providing, I would say, best practices of things that you should try to do in your process of creating threat modeling, like fostering participation. We want to make sure that we have diversity of job function for people that are performing threat modeling.
Yes.
We don't want to just have developers sit around in a corner, because when you bring a tester and a product manager and an architect and they all sit at the table, there's a lot of good. And once again, that has a direct point back to the manifesto too. Like there's a direct correlation there right back.
And not just the manifesto. If you've seen any of our previous podcast episodes, you ever seen any of the presentations that any of us have done at conferences or through trainings or through, books or other material that we've put together, this is a common theme, right? Having threat modeling be part of the process that everyone.
It's a team sport.
Yeah, that everyone is involved with. So
that's a good T-shirt idea. Threat modeling is a team sport.
And I think that it's fair to say that we started with the manifesto. The manifesto sort of drew a line, and people were like, okay, these are important things to do, but how do I actually do them? What do I need to do in order to do them? And the capabilities is here exactly to show these are the pieces that you need. These are the things that you need to work on having so that you can achieve the targets that we put out in the manifesto.
Yeah.
And the next thing in line probably is going to tell people how to get better at these capabilities.
Spoiler alert. Come on.
Nudge.
I finished watching part 2.
Say no more. Say no more.
All right. So then we've got acting on threat models, things that we can do to ensure that the findings of the threat models, people are taking action upon them. So definition of done, seamless alignment, baseline improvements, and then risk management. Then you've got communication. What are some best practices for communication and measurement, and then ultimately program management as ways to improve the threat modeling program, which is driving all the other good stuff that's happening with our threat modeling. It is our ultimate goal. So there's the list of the 15 people. So we had a few people from the manifesto drop out due to other commitments. And then we had a couple of new folks that joined us, like Sarah Jane Madden, Sarah Jane had just a crucial, just a different viewpoint. And I'm the one that invited her and told the rest of the team, because we sat in Dublin last year at the OWASP conference and sat and listened to her talk. I think Izar, you and I were actually sitting there, right? And we were like, she thinks about this differently than anybody else I know, which is great. She's
one of us.
Yeah, but she's brilliant, and she thinks about it. She just thinks about it differently, and that's what we wanted. We don't want this group to be represented as we all think the same way and conclude the same way. We want different opinions here, and so Sarah Jane was a new person that we were able to bring into the mix. Siba, who is very well known in the OWASP world for his work on SAM and lots of other things. But we were able to invite him to join us. He's also passionate about threat modeling. We were able to invite him to join us and bring his experience with SAM into the mix as we were trying to figure out maturity models versus capabilities and stuff like that. So it was great to have some new folks join us in the mix. Now let's talk about, as our final point of discussion / argument, because now we're not in the confines of the threat modeling group.
Wait! Before we go there, we have to mention Sheila, that she's already a honorary member of the group. And by now, after reading so much about threat modeling, guys, if you need somebody to give you training, I think that Sheila by now can do it. So without her editing powers, we would be stuck words meeting for a long, long time, and it wouldn't be nearly as good as we think it came out.
We would have been reliant on the hallucinations of some LLM somewhere.
And Grammarly.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Definitely thank you to Sheila for being our editor and turning that document around fast.
And our guy Punctilio Tertiari Secundus.
And you have to figure that one out yourself, folks. So
Centurion of the legions.
Ask ChatGPT. Maybe
ask ChatGPT.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So we started this conversation when we started this group working again, discussing and debating capabilities versus maturity model. And we had some good debate and conversation early on in the process, and eventually we landed on capabilities. So what would a maturity model as the next chapter of this book look like, Matt? Since you were a person that was very on the forefront of capabilities and maturity models.
Well, so if anyone is familiar with what is the capability maturity model system, right? So CMMI is available. It's in 2. something now. So you may be familiar with that if you're familiar with CMMI, or if you're familiar with anything out of the open group, especially they have capability model. So capabilities are things that you do or do not do, whereas maturity is the how well do you do those things, right? So if you look at a capability, if we pick any of the capabilities, really, just there's I'm going to just go back and pick one of these, right? So if we look at lifecycle integration, just because it's strategy, right?
A good one.
A low maturity of lifecycle integration would be very ad hoc. Maybe the engineer or a security champion or somebody working on a product within a lifecycle may just, I want to do threat modeling, and they add it to their task list, right? That's pretty low maturity. But at a higher level of maturity, you're going to have it baked into your lifecycle definition, and so it becomes a regular activity. And then at an even higher maturity to that, there may be some sort of feedback loop, and so it may become an adaptive activity within the life cycle. So the way that the fact that you do some sort of integration gives you the capability, and then how effective you are, how repeatable it is, how measurable it is, how adaptive it is what you gain through increasing levels of maturity.
Yeah, I think that's the next logical step.
Yep.
Is to go to take the capabilities and consider what maturity levels would look like for each of them.
Right.
And
so sorry, Izar. So just one of the big parts of conversation we of course we had and want to keep in mind when we look at how would we put a maturity model together, if we take that as the next step, is there are a number of maturity models today that exist that are that have varying degrees of success and value, right? So you have OWASP has a maturity model in SAM, right? So the security assurance maturity model, where for each capability area, they offer a step 1, step 2, step 3, right? So maturity is fixed with fixed definitions. You have BSIM, build security and maturity model. Well, it's not maturity model; it's something else. I think it stands for that describes sort of a set of things that people do as a measure of maturity, but not necessarily defining what those things should be. And then you have CMMI, which has for each process area or capability an understanding of a 0 to 5 scale, where increasing maturity means something and may not actually define what it means to be at level 1 versus level 3 versus level 5, but has a goal in mind. And so what is valuable for us as threat modelers and as organizations that are implementing a threat modeling program, is it appropriate to say, well, at level 4 or level 5 of lifecycle integration, you should have an adaptive threat modeling process, without actually telling them what that means, versus making it prescriptive and potentially missing the mark. Right. So those are some of the things that will have to be worked out if anyone's going to build on top of these capabilities.
Yeah, but one thing I was thinking about the maturity side of things is that, as you said, for example, the BSIM, it looks at different verticals, but at the end of the day, it's the same things that they're looking at and measuring. They just check who has more of them in which vertical. And for us in here, I think I'm just throwing like thoughts out, not talking for the group. This is probably going to be an interesting discussion. Does it mean that we always have to have the same number of levels for each one of the capabilities?
No.
Does it always mean that everybody has to migrate towards the higher levels? Or if you are in a specific kind of organization, you can stop in the middle and everything's going to be fine. So,
I mean, you can do that with any maturity model, though. Like that's a personal choice.
Right, but that's a personal choice.
You're not forced to go to the highest level. I mean, the highest level should define what we as a group of practitioners think is the best state for that particular capability based on our collective experience.
So the thing is, going back to our recurring theme of being reasonable, if we go with bad, good, best, do we always have to be at best? Is the reasonable level being always at best? Probably not.
You're starting with a fundamental flaw in your reasoning.
Which is
bad, good, best.
Yeah.
I don't think a maturity is that type of measurements.
Oh no, I'm just throwing it. I mean, bad is not having, good is having something, best is having the whole thing. But just throwing something to have something to measure here. It could be level 0 to level 5.
No, so, it's not that. It's you're associating value to those levels.
Interesting. So you're already saying that being at a higher level doesn't mean that you are at a higher value of the thing.
It may not be.
It just means that you are better at doing it.
More consistent. Mm. You may have higher assurance.
Nice.
Right. It doesn't necessarily even mean that you're doing. You could have, so similar to security, right? You can have high assurance and still have a Swiss cheese product.
So we have to definitely be quantitative rather than qualitative in the measurement of that maturity. Okay, somebody write that down.
But it's what you do. It's what you do and how you do it, not necessarily that you could still find 1 billion security threats through an adaptive process. The adaptive process is the important part, not necessarily the outcomes. The outcomes should be manageable. The outcomes should be understandable. The outcomes should drive behavior, but not from the purpose of saying maturity 3 versus maturity 5 is better or worse.
Are you telling me process over outcome?
So this is kind of a fundamental flaw of maturity models that why people tend to probably don't like it so much. But yeah, a little bit.
Everything needs to be about outcomes, though.
No.
Well, and I guess
actually we should make an episode on that.
If you look at it from a business perspective, it's about outcome. At the end of the day, if I don't have outcome, I don't have a business, and so you can make all the process you want, but there's no way you're going to go to an empty building because we don't exist anymore.
You're going to have an outcome either way. Having a process to get to some outcome means that if that outcome is not the optimal one, you have something to go back and debug to get to the optimal one. Yeah. So the process is actually more important than the outcome.
And I'll argue on the case of chaos.
You'll have you'll have predictability. That's actually that is literally the choice. Do you want chaos or do you want predictability?
Yes.
So if anything, a process maturity model is all about capability. The process maturity model is entirely about repeatability and predictability, not necessarily what you're getting, but how you're getting there.
So you can refer to me as Tyler Durden from now on. A little reference
by the way, if anyone is listening to this, if any of our viewers are listening to this and have thoughts on capability and maturity models, absolutely would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Especially after he reads the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to segue into the end of this episode. So we definitely want to get feedback on this thing. Like we didn't create this thing in an ivory tower and think that we somehow have all the answers. We want people to analyze it and then provide comments and feedback. You can do that. There's a GitHub repo for the Threat Modeling Manifesto and now the capabilities. So you can send us issues from there. You can ping any of us directly. We'll pass the feedback on to the rest of the team. So feel free to give us that feedback. We really do want to know what we got right, what you think we might have gotten wrong, so that we can revise it in the future and make an even better thing.
What we forgot.
What we forgot.
Very
That's
important.
A good thing too. I would not guarantee that we captured everything that needs to go into the essence of a threat modeling program.
Yeah.
There are some things that we missed.
Or what ended up on the cutting room floor.
True.
That one too.
That's the B side.
What did we deprioritize because of our collective understanding, but we should have kept.
Yeah.
Is this important? What an interesting question.
What a way to leave that. We'll leave that for our audience to ponder. Hopefully you enjoyed walking through this threat modeling capabilities document. I know we all had a blast putting it together, but I am glad that we shipped it finally. That was a momentous occasion to ship it, get it out to the world so we can gather feedback on it.
Now?
Yeah. Let the record show Izar is celebrating with fireworks in his camera display for anyone driving the boat, the plane, the helicopter, or the car at this point who's not able to look at the video screen. So once again, thanks for joining us on the security table. We will be back next week with some other wacky, zany fun.
We have the capability.